We have mentioned this before here on Rational Radio, and it is the outsourcing that has the Philadelphia School District has decided to go with to fulfill their substitute teacher positions. So now joining us on the phone is Kristen Graham, a reporter for the Philadelphia Inquirer, for their education section. She is a Pulitzer Prize winner, and she covers all that is the Philadelphia School District. Kristen, thanks for joining us here on Rational Radio.
Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing well.
Not too bad.
All right. So first, let's start off. What is going on here with this outsourcing of these substitute teachers? I feel like it's every day that I'm looking at Philly.com and there's another article there about how they're missing deadlines and not living up to what they thought they would be.
So back in the spring, the Philadelphia School District said that they were going to outsource substitute services. Basically, 60% of classrooms had subs when the district managed them, but that meant that 40% didn't. They just weren't attracting a lot of subs. So they said they thought they could both save money and get more subs by hiring a private firm to handle the services. And, of course, they wouldn't have to pay substitutes benefits. In some cases, substitutes did receive them under the old system. And so this company, Source for Teacher, based in New Jersey, received the contract, $34 million over 2 years to manage substitute service. And so far they really haven't performed up to par. They were supposed to have 75% of vacancies filled on day one of school. I think they were at 11% for the first couple of weeks, and now they're at about the 25% mark.
Wow. So the incredible stats that are coming out of this. Looking at the article that you wrote, only 19% of the classrooms missing their teachers on Friday were filled with substitutes.
Correct.
And I don't know. I mean, why haven't they gotten rid of this program yet? I mean, I feel like that this would be something that once they saw these initial numbers that they would just be like, all right, we're done with this. We're going to look for something else.
Well, I mean, I think it's a huge bureaucracy, and you're talking about 500 sub-jobs to fill. And you can't just turn the ship around that quickly. So I think they, are certainly looking at their options. But their point is, look, under our system, we didn't, achieve a much better rate. And so I don't think that Source for Teachers is going to be allowed to continue for much longer if their performance continues along these lines. But it's not as simple as, like, you fire them and then you get 100% of subs the next day. Because obviously this has received a lot of publicity, and people are not, just signing up to sub in Philadelphia. And money is a big factor. So Source for Teachers is paying considerably less than the district was paying, and that, was part of the cost savings.
Yeah, and I know definitely the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers and Jerry Jordan have been very outspoken about this. What have they said recently, if anything, about this the situation with the subs?
So they've continued their message, and it's important to know that they lost membership as a result of this decision, because subs were members of the PFT, and they said, look, we don't think that subs should be outsourced, that this should be a district function, and in fact, the district kind of willfully didn't do a great job of recruiting subs in the last couple of years of the contract, was the PFT allegation, because they kind of wanted to set the stage for outsourcing.
Yeah, and have you heard of any discussions of what alternatives could be for the Source for Teachers company?
No, I mean, I'm sure they're going on at some level, but they're not being made public.
Yeah, and are there? Have you spoken to any parents or actual people affected by this who have kind of shared what their feelings are? Sure.
Mostly teachers and people inside schools who, because when you have classes that aren't covered by a substitute, someone else has got to cover that class. In some cases, teachers are being pulled from their preparation periods to cover a class. In other cases, classes are being collapsed. So class might be much larger because half the kids are from another class are in there. So it's really creating havoc in a lot of schools, and even in schools that traditionally don't have a hard time filling substitute vacancies. I'm thinking of Central High, schools that are sort of known as really good places for subs to work, that are having lots of sub vacancies.
So we know that it's only between 10 and 20% of these classes that are actually getting filled, right? And so what is the exact number on all the classes that aren't getting filled? Because we know it's 90%, but like how many classes are we talking about? How many
Well,
classrooms?
it really varies from day to day. On like last Friday is the last number I had. I think there were something like 500 some vacancies, and that was
Wow.
particularly high because they were going into a 3-day weekend, and so a lot of people might call out on that Friday if they're going on vacation or whatever. So you're talking about 400 plus classes that aren't being filled.
Wow, that's a huge number. 500 classes.
And in a district of 218 schools, so you have to keep in
okay.
in
Yeah.
mind.
But
that
still,
it's
but
a
still.
large.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'd like it to be just have every classroom have a
Exactly.
teacher in it. And I mean, are there other reasons besides the money and state of the school district that you think are keeping substitutes from signing up to sub in the school district of Philadelphia?
I mean, there are. I think there is some backlash at the fact that there's been this outsourcing. Money is a big issue. Substitute teachers, people who had retired from the Philadelphia school district were paid a much higher rate under the district's watch, and that's not happening now. So money is a big factor. But I think there are people who are not inclined to do it because they're upset about outsourcing.
Yeah, and
But it's also important to acknowledge that similar districts in the region are paying similar rates, and where are you going to go to a suburban district where it's classroom management is easier, kids aren't as needy,
right?
Or are you going to go to Philadelphia where conditions are tougher?
Yeah, and is Superintendent Height still standing by their decision to hire this company?
Well, I mean, he's certainly saying that he's surprised and he thought they were up to the job, and he's not willing to let this go indefinitely. I mean, no one is happy with the decision, but at this point, they're kind of exploring their options, it seems like.
Yeah, wow, an interesting situation that I'm sure will continue to develop as we go on. Kristen, thanks so much for joining us here today.
My pleasure. Take care.
Thanks, you
too.
too. It just an absolutely just crazy situation to think about.
That's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
400 to 5, and so there's only, what did she say, 218 schools?
Yeah.
So that's 2 classes of school that are just not happening. Nothing is happening in those classes. A teacher gets pulled from their planning period, wheels in that giant TV on the cart, and throws on a movie. Like that's what's happening to 500 classrooms a day. Like that's unbelievable.
I know
that number is so high.
Like 5. And then those teachers. Then what do they? Then they lose their planning period.
Exactly.
Then they have to go teach. Like, just how it is stretched so thin.
It's just unfathomable that this is happening so often. Like so when we first talked about it, I thought about it and I was like, oh, like I guess it's a big deal, but like not really. Like it's just substitutes not coming in. Like when you don't have your teacher and you don't really do anything anyways. But 500 classrooms a day. 500. That's so many.
I know.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane to think about that. That like they're just empty, and then they're like
nothing is happening. No one's learning during these
Right.
times, which is what we're in school to do. It's the inner city school district. So when these kids are at school, like they want to be learning, they're in school to be learning, and when they're not, there's no reason for them to come to school. Like if they were learning and engaged in class, like then yes, they would want to come to school, but they skip class because there's nothing going on because no substitute teachers come in. So
yeah, I know. I mean, who can blame them though? I mean, they want a thing. They want an education, and they can't even get a person to sit in the classroom.
Right, and so just this one Friday, it was a long weekend. There's no class today yesterday because of Columbus Day. But why do teachers want the extra long weekend, but 500 classrooms needed to be filled?
Yeah.
That's not okay. Like what's
Right.
happening?
I know. And I understand, like it is more difficult to teach in the city of Philadelphia than in a suburban school district. And Kristen pointed that out in saying that they are providing comparable rates to suburban school districts. And what's the incentive to teach in Philadelphia when you have, like she said,
Right.
better classroom management in the suburbs?
Right.
And I mean, that's that's a valid point. I mean, if they're getting paid the same amount of money, why wouldn't they just drive a little bit further?
There's no reason. There's no reason to go somewhere where you feel like you're gonna be, or to not go somewhere where you feel like you would be respected more and paid the same. So of course these teachers are doing this, but I don't know. It's just the city, like we talked about, wondering why Camden's numbers dropped and ours stayed the same, and why Philadelphia has this awful reputation. But like, this is why, because the government is not doing anything about the education. They tried to bring the system in. The system fell on its face.
Yeah. Just
100%. It's slightly better than what they were doing before, but like by 4% we talked about 6%. So it's not okay.
And the fact is that they saw membership in the teachers union drop. And they from the beginning they've been vocal opponents to outsourcing substitute teachers, saying that it is not the same as hiring true substitutes.
Yep.
And everybody, was saying, "Oh no, it'll be fine. It'll be cheaper."
It's not fine, and it's barely cheaper.
Right. I mean, but maybe were they right? I mean, they're saying, keep the unionized subs.
Yeah.
Now it might cost you more in the long run with benefits and everything. But, I mean, the classrooms will have a teacher in them.
Yeah.
And the fact that, the superintendent of the Philadelphia schools, like Kristen said, he said he's definitely surprised, but he hasn't. What I think is interesting is he hasn't come out and said, just right here, we are working on an alternate solution. And, she's right. You can't just turn it around that quickly. But, he, in the article that she wrote on Philly.com, he's reaching out to former teachers, asking them, pleading with them to come back and act as substitute teachers.
Right, and so much of this, it's not just high school teachers. It's not just the substitute comes in and sits down and shows the same movie 8 times a day and then goes home. Like when you need a sub for a second grade class, they need to actually do things and they need to be engaged in things. And of course, these substitutes want to be compensated appropriately for that. They can't just sit there and read their book or watch a movie or do whatever substitute teachers usually do. But it's just, of course, they want as much money as they're asking for to teach in a much more difficult environment. And it blows my mind that the city's not going to pay them for that.
Yeah, I know.
And is going to let 500 classrooms a day be unfilled.
Yeah, this isn't just one school had 20 classrooms that were empty. This is like district wide. Like she said, Central High School is one of the places where students in Philadelphia recognize as being one of the better high schools in the city, and even there they can't. You'd think even if they were going to prioritize where they put the subs. That's not even the case. And
even there, they can't get it done. It's still face down.
And it's and then the discussion becomes. In the article, it mentions how the company's Source for Teachers is expected to reach a 75% fill rate by the end of the month.
I don't believe that. Not for a second do I believe that they're going to turn it around from 20 to 75 like that. No chance.
Yeah. How's that? They haven't been able to put teachers in these classrooms. All of a sudden they say, all right, in the next 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks, we're going to make this right. We're going to grab people from who knows where.
Exactly.
And then that also brings up another issue of
where are they going to find these people?
And who are they bringing in? Are these people going to be going through background checks, or are they just going to say, hey, listen, we just need you for a couple weeks or something, come sub for us.
Come make us look good, please.
Yeah. Are these people even qualified teachers?
Who knows?
And
Who knows? Who knows what the city's going to bring in now? So.
And it's just it's such a such a problem. And the money thing doesn't help the school district's finances, because if they had unlimited money, they could hire whoever the heck they wanted. They could keep the teachers. They could afford to keep the ones. And they wouldn't have to go with a company. But even if they had a little bit more cash flow, they could at least choose to what company to use it with.
Yeah.
I don't think, with they're definitely operating on a budget, and I'm sure that they're looking at it and saying, well, we can't afford the Lexus, so we'll go with the Honda.
Right.
But the Honda isn't working.
Yeah, but the Honda doesn't pull out of the driveway and actually get you where you need to be.
Right.
It's and there's so much, like, the chain of blame just goes up so high because you start by blaming the substitute teachers, and then you realize, oh, like, they actually aren't getting paid. Blame the school district, and then you realize that the school district doesn't actually have the money, so you blame the local government, and the local government doesn't have the money. So it just goes all the way up to the national government now wanting to spend money on education. So